with the bow, baby, in rifle season, Pennsylvania.
I just got my first eye with the bow.
Drum roll, please. Welcome back to Relive the Hunt podcast, episode 20-something. 21, with Tom Titlow
21.
and Cole Mountain Sightsinger.
Hello.
I hope you guys enjoyed listening to last week's podcast, because I'm still amped up telling the story.
I don't understand how you could not be still amped up, because that was a pretty good story. And on a 6.5-year-old mountain buck, it doesn't get any better than that.
It does not. I had a lot of good feedback on that podcast, so thanks for listening, guys. I am super excited to jump into Tom's season, because this is just number 2 of about 4 or 5 good Pennsylvania hunts we got coming for you.
Hell yeah. I'm excited to tell the story. I don't have as much history as Cole had with this buck, but I guess you could say the little history that I had makes it somewhat of a cool story.
Yeah, it definitely does. No point in messing around with it. We'll get into the story. We're going to go over your whole season, not just the deer you killed, and take us back all the way.
Okay, so my season started out pretty slow. I think you and I, we actually were up, setting trail cameras up north and looking for a certain buck on prior history from last year.
Yeah,
we had an
a
account.
buck you were after.
A buck I was down at. I called Levy. I had an encounter with him. That was the first. And the encounter I had from previous podcast was I saw him. I was already had a buck tag filled. I could not shoot, and that was when I learned about this deer. I spent all turkey season scouting for this deer and hunting turkeys, of course, but I hunted turkeys specifically in one area looking for this deer. Just previous sign. So I came across some good stuff, and I found some good clues and started my hunt for this deer in the spring of 2018. Summer came along. You and I went up, hung a bunch of trail cameras, checked some trail cameras with no sign of this deer anywhere.
But we didn't expect to see him early.
We didn't. We figured he'd be rolling through around October. So,
although it was still in our mind, we wanted to catch him in summer pattern of some sort, if we could.
But we weren't getting our hopes up about that. So in the meantime, I mean, we figured that if we don't find this deer, there's going to be another one in this area, because after we scouted it, we're like, this is it, man. This has got to be a big deer that lives here every year, So we figured that will be a good starting point, which it was, but we never I never had any trail camera pictures of this deer that I called Levy. Fast forward a little bit, I did get trail camera pictures of a buck in mid-November. If you compare last year's pictures and this year, last year he would have been an 11-pointer. This year, if it's the same deer, and Cole and I studied these photos, we figure he probably, we're 90% sure, 85 to 90% sure that this deer is the same deer, and this year he's a 9-pointer.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's the same deer for sure. He changed a little bit, but not crazy. I mean,
No, not crazy. He actually, trail cameras don't do deer justice. If you go back and look at the buck Cole just shot, Speedy, we didn't post any trail camera pictures of this deer yet. I don't think on social media, but we will. And then the actual kill photos, the difference is, I believe, night and day. So I don't think trail cameras actually really do deer or bucks the justice that they actually deserve.
Yeah,
So,
and he looks good in the trail camera.
and
He's
he
bigger
looks
than he was
good.
last year,
He looks
regardless.
good in the trail camera for sure. Like, he's a shooter, and you know, hopefully he survived the rifle season. But uh, last year we were guessing that he was pushing 140,
Yeah, I figured he was right at the 140 mark.
and he's obviously bigger this year, sporting 9 points, and he's got to be a 150-inch 9 pointer. I would have to say.
Yep, a solid mountain buck.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
going into the season though, you didn't even have that to go for or
No,
to
no,
go
I
on
had
yet.
I had no clue that
I
this
mean, we
deer showed
figured
up.
that's what you were after, but we never even knew. No proof.
But I had some good ideas of what this deer did, and we talked about it all summer long, and I hung some trail cameras there on some scrapes, and it just so happened to be that Pennsylvania archery season has closed statewide, and I had pictures of them, in between the archery season and the rifle season. So just unfortunate that he showed up late this year. He could have been on a hot doe, whatever. Anything could have happened. Just showed up late, or maybe I just wasn't in the exact area that I thought he would be in. But regardless, I actually still have trail cameras out there that haven't been checked all year.
So there's a chance you have proof of him being alive now,
True. If the
or
batteries
proof that he
last.
was there in season.
As also true. I haven't checked. There's, I think, two cameras or three cameras that I haven't checked since. One of them I haven't checked since mid-October, and there's another one I haven't checked since early November.
Yeah, so there's definitely some information to be gained there for 2019 then.
Yeah, so that's exciting. Hopefully he is still around. If not, then that's what happens, and we hunt Pennsylvania, and that's how we hunt. We try to chase some deer, and it doesn't always work out for us. But so going back to how my season was, I hunted. I have a couple places at home that I can hunt, and I've hunted them pretty hard. And just when it starts to get mid October from last year, and I'm hunting the same property again this year. Last year, I've noticed on trail camera that these bucks start moving in around mid October. So my buddy Steve and I, we hunt this property together. We found a buck in summertime that we were like, okay, he's a shooter. Me personally, I was going to pass this deer up, but Steve was all about wanting to kill this deer, which I had no problem with. I thought it was a good buck. It turned out we were able to get on this deer, and I think mid October, Steve put an arrow through him, and he harvested this 8 pointer. I think he was scored 110 inches, and it was his biggest buck ever. So good buck for Steve. I was happy for him. I actually got this hunt on film, so hopefully within the next few months, I'll be able to come up with a storyline and get this video out there for everybody to see.
Yeah, it was a great buck for him to get. And tell us a little bit why, in your mind, why you didn't want to go after that deer. I know this is a small property and you guys share it, but you were kind of focused on Levy at that point still.
Yeah, at this point, Levy was in my mind. Um, I know that there's big bucks to be had, and I know there's big bucks to be seen. I've seen big bucks, and according to trail camera last year, on this property that Steve and I share, come mid October, like I said, these bucks start rolling through, cruising through. New ones start moving into this area. So from last year, there was a couple of really nice bucks that were moving in here. One was a gigantic 6-pointer, and if I was actually hoping that he showed back up, which would have been he. I mean, if he, we never got trail camera pictures of him this year or laid eyes on him, so who knows what happened? He could have, he's gone, but
Yeah, he would have been a shooter for sure
he
right
was a
away.
shooter last year, right away.
Yep.
This year he would have been, I don't know, he would have been pushing 125 as a 6-pointer, I think.
Yeah, and I mean he just would have been a big, just awesome, heavy, mature buck.
Yeah, he was mature last year, and it's what happens to mature deer. They just put on some mass, and some cool stuff happens. So, but anyway, that deer was not around. Um, so Steve had harvested his deer, and before Steve got his deer, I saw a decent buck, and it was an 8-pointer, but he was super super wide. I actually got some video footage of him when I put it on our Instagram story. I think shooter or not, and everybody told me it was a shooter, but this deer had to be at least 20 inches wide. But didn't have a very heavy rack, but you could tell this is deer's mature deer. Just body wise, body language, everything told me that this deer was mature. And so this deer never actually gave me an opportunity, but I was pretty pumped that I saw this buck, but no trail camera photos of him ever this year at all. I just laid eyes on him.
Yep.
So that gave me some motivation to be like, okay, yeah, now I have a shooter here, and at home, and up north, I was still hunting pretty hard up there, and I didn't have anything that worthwhile that I'd want to go after. So come late October, um, things start heating up here in PA, and to me, late October is my favorite time of the year to hunt. I actually like it better than actually hunting the rut.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty good. You get into that seek phase where it just seems like all these buck are on their feet all of a sudden, and they're moving.
I've
Bucks that you haven't seen just show up that
Yep.
time of the year.
I feel like I've learned that I've seen more mature deer on their feet in late October, from I would say anywhere from the 25th to the 31st of October. That short span there of 5 or 6 days. I've seen more mature bucks in my time hunting than I've ever have in November. So it's my favorite time to hunt. I'll take off days in that 5-day span just to be out there, because it's my favorite time, and it's everybody has their own way. This is one
Yeah,
of
there's a
mine.
lot of hunters out there that I'm sure agree with you on that time frame. It's hard to beat November, but there's certainly something to say for the end of October.
If
It's
you're
it's different.
if you're on a mature buck and you know what this deer does and you know where he's living, that's the best time, in my opinion,
October is the best time to kill them.
to
Yep.
kill him, because he is still on his fall pattern and he hasn't left his core area for a doe yet.
Yep.
But
Yep.
he's
We
on his
see
feet.
that.
He's on his feet in his core area looking for the first hot doe.
We see that time and time again for
It
sure.
happens every year. So put that one in the memory bank, guys. If you're on a deer, don't wait till November to try and kill him. Get him in October. You'll have a better shot,
Unless
I
you're
think.
me.
Unless you're Cole and me this year. I shot my buck in November.
But we kind of, we did what we had to do in November to switch our mode. I
Yes.
purposely went into that spot that I hunted for a November rut spot. So same thing. If you're on a deer early, October is for sure a better time to pattern and get on them.
Yeah, I think a few of our buddies have killed some of their biggest bucks in late October. And that's when you see
Yeah.
the big bucks start hitting the ground anyway, even on social media. So anyway, jumping back into my season. So about October 25th, I'm pretty sure that's the day. It was one of the first cold fronts, high pressure days that we had. One of the best times we've had so far this season. Coming, this past fall,
Leading into the season.
leading coming up into the rut, one of the best days you had, and for the time of the year. And I'm hunting at the property that Steve and I share, and I'm by myself because Steve is tagged out at this point with a buck, and I had seen a buck late. I saw there's just one spike I would see there every single time I went. Every single time I was there, I saw a spike, and it's the same deer every time. So I see this deer, I'm like, oh, there's that spike, and then I see another like big body deer. I'm like, oh man, that's got to be a buck. So I throw my binoculars up, and I was like, oh man, that's a shooter, and I'm thinking it was the wide 8-pointer I saw before.
Was this an evening hunt or a morning
This
hunt?
this was an evening hunt.
Yep.
It
Getting
was
close
there.
to dark on you?
It was probably about an hour before dark.
All right.
It was kind of early, usually those deer don't start moving until a half hour before the end of the day, an hour. But it was still early yet. I had a lot of time, so I lay eyes on this buck, and I'm looking at him through the binoculars, and I'm thinking, man, this is a shooter. He's got nice beam length. He's pretty heavy, and I'm thinking it's that wide buck I saw earlier in the season. And then I start looking harder, and I'm like, man, he has 4 on top. He's got 4 points on top. So I thought has a 9-pointer. I'm like, that other buck definitely had 8. There was
Yep.
no 9th point. That was a straight 8-pointer. I'm like, this is a different buck. And I'm like, this spot's great. I love this spot because new bucks just roll through here all the time, and they stay, according to trail camera. They stay in the area. So now I know this deer's in the area. He stayed 80 yards away. I never was able to get him close enough to get a shot. So now I'm all amped up. I just seeing this deer, you know how you get buck fever and you start shaking.
Oh yeah.
Well, just seeing this deer, I had that feeling. I remember texting you guys in the group message. I just saw a shooter, and I'm literally shaking like a leaf, just like I just shot this deer, and he wasn't even close enough to shoot. I didn't even pick up my bow.
But he got you fired up.
But he
And
got me fired up. My heart was pounding, and he was 80 yards away, and it was like, whoa, I can't. I need to. The hunt's on. It's game on now.
yep. And how big is that property? Because I feel like
It's
when you see a deer in there, go
four,
ahead.
It's 14 acres.
Yeah, 14 acres. So when you see a deer in there and you know that they moved in, like your confidence is through the roof that you're going to be able to get a shot at them.
Right. So this 14 acres is surrounded by other property that I'm not allowed to hunt. Now, I don't think anybody's allowed to hunt those properties, but not saying, when I do,
Yeah, I mean, you've run into hunters, so
I have run into them. So it's,
there's
it's
pressure around.
there is the pressure, and it's a little scary because I don't venture off the property that I'm not allowed to be off of. So I just stay where I'm supposed to be, and that's what I hunt. And so now I just know that this deer, because the way the property is laid out, it has everything. It has water. Is there swamp on the property? There's bedding. There's thick cover, and I actually don't think there's much food on the property there, but there's a few acorn oak trees sprinkled in there. So early
Yeah,
season when they are dropping, they're there, and it keeps them there until about November.
it seems like the last couple years you've hunted there, it's like when the deer are there, they're there, and you can only hunt this little area, so there's nothing to screw up. You go in and out, and it's like they're just there. It's just what day are they going to walk by your tree stand?
Exactly. There you can't really overthink this property. We have 2 stands set, and you hunt either one, and something's eventually going to happen. If you
Yeah.
hunt that stand every single day, something's going to happen. And
So you
mind
see
you,
this
this is like a
shooter buck.
suburban area. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You see this shooter buck, and now you have 2 buck to chase after you didn't have anything coming into the season, and you didn't even take your rut vacation yet.
Right. Well, I this was October 25th when I lay eyes on this buck. this so-called 9-pointer at this point. I'm leaving to leave. I'm going away for 3 days. I took off 3 days. I'm hunting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is the overlap of the Pennsylvania black bear season with the bow. So I'm heading up north. I want to shoot. Now everything's open to me. I can shoot a black bear. I can shoot a buck. I can shoot a doe. I can shoot a coyote. It's just,
And
it's
it's the time of the year that Levy was around
and
in 2017.
and it's the same time frame that Levy was around, which is the reason I took off.
Yep.
So
Was it hard for you to leave home to go north? Or did all the bear seasons and just the camp and all
now
that
I love it up
also?
there. I love hunting up there, and I know that there's bucks. Like I could go up there and not know anything, not put a trail camera out, and I know I have a chance to shoot one of the biggest bucks I could ever shoot in my entire life
Yeah.
at any moment, at any time.
Does part of you realize too that if you're done hunting upstate, you always have later, the season doesn't close down at home, and you have
Correct.
that too.
Correct. I have this at home. It's like a ace in the pocket, and I'm just saving it. So I'll be very selective down here. But that one buck got me fired up, and he would have been a shooter to me all day long, no matter what.
Yep. Okay, so you're heading north for bear and for Levy.
Heading north for bear and for Levy. So transitioning to my northern hunting, I had picked a weekend. I was up there. It was rained all weekend. So the hunting wasn't, it's just raining. It sucks. You don't want to really be out there. It's mid-October. It was warm. So I took my time. I just gave up my whole afternoon, and I scouted in the rain, moved trail cameras around, and just was looking for hot sign and moved all my cameras accordingly. So that was, I don't know, probably October 20th, somewhere, wherever that weekend fell.
Here we are with the dates again.
Yeah. So it doesn't even matter, but it was mid-October. It rained all weekend. I moved some cameras around, and on some scrapes that I've seen, and some trails, and some, like, it looked like some rub lines going in through here. So I was like, let me hang a trail camera here. Transitioned everything, checked those cameras, no sign of Levy, no sign of any shooter buck. So kind of disappointed. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. But I saw some sign, and that I was like, there's got to be something good here. So now I'm off. I'm up here for the archery, bear, and buck, and my favorite time of year. And I saw Levy the year before. So now I'm hunting this area. I get in there. The first day I didn't hunt where you and I scouted, and we had both said, like, well, what are we waiting for? Just go,
Yeah,
So,
he's either there or he's not.
yeah.
So you're
So
not going to mess anything up if he's not.
I was like, you know what? Screw it. Actually, you know what it was? Why I wasn't going is because I was waiting for my saddle.
That's right. It was a
That's
far hike.
that's what it was. And I'm telling you guys, this, where I was hunting, it takes me. Excuse me. I leave my cabin, and I have about a half an hour ATV ride, and then I walk for another 45 minutes or so. It takes me from over an hour, and it's far away.
Yep.
So,
It was
I park my ATV at the end of my property line, and I walk, and as far as I can on the state property.
Yep. And you don't want to leave a stand out, so you were waiting on the saddle so that you
Right.
could pack in light.
So yes, I'm trying to pack
We did
in.
prep a stand out there though,
We
or
did.
the saddle.
We
or
did
just
prep it for the saddle. So, it's October 30th, and I want to be out in this area because we just knew it was going to be good whether we had intel or not. So I said, screw it. I'm strapping a tree stand to my back, and I hiked that thing all the way to hell out there with all my gear. I didn't, and I just left all the camera gear at home at this point. I was like, I'm not carrying all this junk out here with me, plus a tree stand, plus my bow. I'm gonna die before I get out there. So I get out there and I pull some cards on the way, but I don't have anything to look at them. I'm just pulling them so I don't have to do it at the end of in the dark. Set up my stand and I'm sitting there and feeling confident. Here come a couple doe. I'm like, oh, beautiful. The wind's working out perfectly for me here. They're never going to smell me. I'm like, this is great. So I've had a couple live decoys out in front of me, about 60 yards, just feeding on some acorns. And it's lights fading, lights fading. I was just happy I saw some deer for the first time sitting in this stand. And there's probably about like 20 minutes, 15 minutes left of light. And I'm looking down to where these deer had fed over the ridge. And I'm like, oh, there's those deer again. And then I said, there was a spike mixed in with these doe. So I'm like, these deer came back up over the ridge. I can see them again now. And they're probably only 45 yards, 50 yards away. But they're directly behind my stand now. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, oh, there's that spike. He came back up through my binoculars. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh my God, holy shit, that's not the spike. That's not the spike. I was looking at his brow tines.
I remember when you saw this deer, how excited you got.
Oh, he's an awesome deer. So I'm looking at him and he's just a main 8-pointer and he's got this wild brow tine that kind of hooks around. It's a unique buck, very unique. And same thing. You look at him through the binoculars, instant shooter, gigantic body on him. You're like, oh my God. So I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? So
And you were in the tree that we prepped, right?
in the tree that we prepped.
And we talked about the bench that he was on.
We did talk about that.
We just figured deer would move down there.
Exactly. And, that's exactly what they did. That's where they moved.
Keep going with the story. I mean,
so they were down there and they were just feeding on acorns, which now this is a learning experience for me for upcoming season. So they're just down there feeding on acorns. And I'm like, this buck is with these does because he's checking these does. There's no reason for him to just be up here like this. Besides the fact that I do realize that he lives there now. So I snort wheeze, I grunt, I'm snort wheezing at him. Well, I'm doing this. And he hears me, but he has no idea where this is coming from. He starts looking the opposite way over the ridge, and you could see he got pissed off. And he's looking down over the ridge, like the opposite way. I'm like, you dumbass, I'm up here. I'm this way.
I wonder, just because the way that bench goes and you're up on the flat, how that worked out with the sound.
Yeah, I don't know. The wind.
Or maybe he knew a buck was down there.
Possibly. Maybe it was that spike.
He heard or saw a buck down there and he thought it was that deer.
Because the spike was down there.
Okay, yeah.
So
that's even better.
I mean, because I thought he was the spike and it wasn't, and the spike never came back. So he heard me, but just didn't know where it came from. So that was my, I'm throwing everything at you, dude. It's either going to be now or I got to get lucky again, because there's a mature Pennsylvania deer sitting in front of you. This is exactly what I'm after. This is what I'm selling my season on, a mature Pennsylvania buck.
Yep.
And especially to get one in the mountains, I feel like that's one of the hardest places to do it in the world. But
yeah, and your first time going into that stand.
Yeah, and we just,
and it's like you did a lot of work to find that area,
right,
to put yourself on a mature buck.
And we did this we just did this in the summer, and there was when you look at the land and you look at the terrain as a hunter, you look at an area sometimes and you're like, this is it. And there don't even have to be a rub, there don't have to be a scrape, there don't have to be anything there.
There wasn't a ton of deer sign.
No.
But we just knew the way it laid out.
That was,
you found it I was just there with you scouting. But
I found it, you fine tuned it, and that's just how it worked out. And
then your first time in, it pays off almost.
yeah, it was.
Well, it does. It does pay off. You get to see that. That's a reward in itself.
Yes, and it was exciting. So I'm pumped. I get back, and it's just me and my dad up here, and we're hunting together. And I pull the cameras, and I'm like, Dad, I saw a shooter. I saw a shooter, and when him and I talk about seeing shooters, he knows what we're talking about. It's not like, yeah, I saw an 8-pointer that was legal. No, it's I saw a shooter. That means I saw a big buck. And
Yeah.
that's how we communicate with each other with that. And he goes, no way, no way. And I said, I'm like, he was cool. He was heavy. He was thick. He had a freaking cool brow tine. He had some junk going on in between. I said, I pulled my camera cards. I said, he's probably on here. Well, he could be on here. We'll see. We're going to check in a minute. So we're grabbing beers. We're all excited, and they're going down like water. And he goes, you saw Herman. You saw Herman. I said, who's Herman? He goes, Herman Munster. I said, Herman Munster? And he's like, yeah, you saw Munster. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, yeah, he was pretty big. I'm like, well, that's his name now. It's Herman. Herman Munster.
And that name's
So Herman was that's how this deer got his name, Herman. So we're looking at the trail camera photos. And I'm like, there he is. That's him. That's him. He goes, holy shit. Oh, man, that's awesome. And dude, I showed you the trail camera pictures. This deer body is huge. He's huge. He's a tank.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he looks like he just sits up there on that mountain and eats.
Yeah, he's a big bodied buck. And like we said before, the trail camera photos on the rack, it doesn't. I don't think it does it justice, because I saw this deer with my own 2 eyes. And it looks way bigger in real life than it does on a trail camera.
Again, the trail cameras fool us sometimes.
They do, but sometimes you look at a buck and like, wow, that's a big buck, and when you walk up on them after you harvest them, it's exactly what you thought he would look like. So
yeah, that's true. Goes
it
both
does
ways.
go both ways. So now I'm excited. Now I'm like, oh, I have 2 shooters. I don't know what to do. I have one at home. I have one here, and I'm going nuts. I have another day to hunt here, and so I know that I have my week-long vacation that I take in the early first week of November every single year, and I have a shooter on camera, and I saw him already, and I'm like, this is it. If this deer don't run off, I have a really good shot of hunting this buck, hunting this deer and getting him in this area. So I'm amped, but at the same time, now I'm back home. Now I'm like, I have to give this other deer another shot, because he's just as big as the one I just saw. In my mind, this is what I think.
Yep.
So I give it one more chance at home to hunt this deer. I don't see. Actually, that was the first time I went to the spot and didn't see a deer. So I left that spot that morning at 10 a.m., packed my truck, and I left. And this was a Saturday, and I drove all the way up north to my cabin, and I got an afternoon hunt in.
I remember that day.
I actually saw a deer, and I hunted in a tree that I wasn't too sure of. I've never hunted down there before, ever. I just had a good feeling that there's been good activity down here, and we talked about it, that Levy could be possibly going through this area.
Yep.
So it's deep down in a hollow. It's at a bottom, at the bottom of the mountain. It's kind of like all these mountains kind of come together, and it's just, I'm just trying to give you a visualization of the lay of the land here, and it just, these kind of all just meet together, and it funnels down into
sort of like a large funnel.
Yeah,
it's not a small funnel, but it's a large funnel, big mountain.
And a bunch of creeks kind of come together, and they come into one. And there's actually some natural apple trees down there, which I scouted earlier in the year that didn't have any apples on them, so wasn't really excited about that. But it's just hardwoods, and it's pretty open, mixed in with some hemlocks. So it's kind of a spot where you're like, nah, I really would never really want to archery hunt here. But I said, you know what, I'm going to try it. I had some deer on trail camera down there. I tried it. I saw a spike. There was a fresh scrape there. I'm like, okay, all good. Never hunted that spot again that week. Actually, I never hunted that spot again the rest of that year. So, but it turns out to be that's where I got the picture of Levy. So
Yep.
I was in the right spot. Just he just wasn't there.
Just a little too
Yep.
early.
So
Or he was too late, I should
yeah,
say.
he showed up too late. I was ready for him. So the whole week we're up there hunting and we're hunting our balls off up there, and it's
The weather wasn't
the
really
weather
good.
sucked.
Nothing was
It
really
rained
good.
all year this year, and that's just it. Kind of the hunting
It
this
did.
this year was below par to me. Even though we had one of the best years as a group with us, Relive the Hunt, one of the best years we've ever had as a a team here,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
which is crazy because it's
Hunting
in
this year
general
was
this year
just
was
kind of
tough.
poor.
Yeah, it was a tough year for everybody. So I'm hunting up north all week long. I'm hunting hard. Sit all day sits, not every day, but sprinkled in between some all day sits. And the day that you shot your deer, that was one of my all day sits for Herman.
Got you pumped up.
Oh yeah, the weather just happened to be perfect that day.
It was. It was perfect across the whole east side of the
Yeah,
state.
it was beautiful. It was that day that he said, "This is it. This is the day. This is," because you just had 2 days of rain and then a day of wind, and then now it finally calmed down and it's cool. It's crisp. It's a perfect day. The pressure's high. The front just came through. The first day after the front,
Yep.
and you're high anticipation. And that's what it's all about, the anticipation. So we're high anticipation here. And I'm sitting there all day, and I don't see many deer. I saw one little 8 pointer, a spike. I think I saw 3 bucks that day, maybe 2 doe. That was a tough sit to sit there all day and not have that much activity, and nothing that I want to shoot. I don't even think I had a deer in range that day.
Yeah, I can't remember if you did or not, but I just know it wasn't what you were
It wasn't
expecting.
the whole week. Just to sum up the whole week, I did not see a shooter buck.
And not just you in general, but I mean, you a pile of people hunting your camp
The
that
whole
week.
camp, we sh-
It was just rough.
we got one deer as a camp. We shot one small 8 pointer, and that was it. And that was nobody saw the shooter. Nobody saw a gigantic buck. And usually one guy. I mean, after out of all them people, somebody sees something that gets everybody amped up.
Yeah,
Nobody
I
saw
mean,
that.
you guys have had some killer years in the past, and I can't believe. I mean, I don't know how many guys you have up there, but it's a pile.
Yeah, I think there's about 17 or 18 of us archery hunting at one time.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not like you're crowding the area.
It
It's a
we
big
have
area, so
a lot of spots.
you would expect somebody to be on something good.
Right.
More disappointing than ever when you have a year like you did.
I honestly I just think it was the lack of food there, and it was such a
Yeah,
wet
too much rain
year.
this year just killed
Yeah,
everything.
we didn't have a chance to do any food plots, anything. I mean, we couldn't get up there. The cabin was full of
I think
mold,
the rain hurt the crop fields. I think it hurt the acorn crop.
everything,
Hurt the apples. It hurt everything.
everything. It was just bad. So, which was a trickle effect, and we didn't have a great year for hunting up there, and nobody saw really nothing worthwhile. So the last day, I probably should have given Herman a little bit more time and dedication to hunt him and hunt the area that he lived, and maybe stuck it out and have a little bit more persistence with that. But it's kind of like a mental game there, and that was the tough part was the rain, the wind, not so much the cold, but I think it rained. Out of
It rained a couple of
the
the
6 days
days.
I was there, at least 3 or 4.
And it's a hike like we talked
Yeah,
about.
and
That's a haul to get into where you were hunting
it's
that
a
buck.
haul.
And to do that and do all day sits and get out an hour or 2 hours after dark to even make it back to your camp,
Yeah.
and then have to be up so much earlier in the
Do you ever
morning to get
do you
back.
ever realize how scary that is walking back in the dark in the middle of nowhere?
It's funny. Oh, and didn't you didn't have a light, or you didn't have a phone or something the one
Oh yeah,
time,
you know,
because you use your phone to map yourself into that
yeah, I have
area.
to map myself in. I use the Onyx Hunt map, and I've mapped myself in, and I map myself out just so I know I'm going the right way because everything
Yeah,
blends in the dark. I don't know. It just kind of looks the same. Like I can do it now. I've done it enough now that I have some landmarks in
but
my
the
mind.
first couple times
But
in,
this is the
it was
first time really
sketchy.
hunting it. The first few times, and dude, that's freaking scary up there.
Not not only that, I mean, we were just talking about this at work today. It's hilarious. Like, I don't care how tough you are as a grown man, when you're alone in the woods in the middle of nowhere in the dark,
Yeah.
your mind plays tricks on you. It's
Oh
creepy.
yeah, and you hear a little twig
I don't
snap,
care who
and
you
it's
are.
just the.
You can say you're the bravest person ever, but I'm telling you, man, that stuff freaks you out.
I'm telling, yeah, you hear a twig snap, and it's the one you just snapped, but you don't know you just snapped it, and I'm like, oh, you shit your pants. I just shit my pants.
Yeah, you high step a little and run a
Yeah,
little, start moving a little
there was
quicker.
debris behind that one.
Yep. I don't look around with my flashlight either because I think that creeps me
Yeah,
out
you see
more.
eyeballs, and
I
you're
like
like,
I
what is
keep it
that?
zoned
What
in
is
on
that?
the ground in front of me. My flashlight doesn't leave the ground in
Yeah.
front of me because I don't want to know what's close by.
Mm-mm, no way. Yeah, and
No, that's
I'm a
great.
giant
Now we're
sissy.
gonna sound like a bunch of pussies
I
here,
sound like
but
I'm a big sissy when it comes to that stuff. So I try to get out of the woods as fast as I can, and I'm on a haul back, so I'm just you try to take your time. You want to sneak out of there, but once I
you don't want to sweat all your
once
clothes
I
up,
get
but geez, you can't stop moving.
out of the area that I'm hunting, like I sneak out. Like believe me, I sneak out of these spots. But once I'm out of that area where I know that I'm not hunting at all, I hightail it out of there, man. I'm hot footing it. So anyway,
Yeah, I'm with you there.
so yeah, I didn't want to. It, it was just one of those weeks where it wasn't good. The hunting weather wasn't perfect, and I didn't have it in me to walk out there, get soaked, and then sit there for and just be uncomfortable. So I hunted spots that I also knew were very good, but a lot easier for me to get to. And call me lazy, but I didn't have it in me. Like we just said, it was a haul to get out there. So finally, I just said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going. I don't care about the wind. And I went out there one afternoon. It was the last hunt of the week. It was a Saturday afternoon. And I'm feeling good. I feel confident. I'm like, I have the saddle, and I'm like, I'm prepping a brand new tree. I just feel like this is the spot to be. And I get in there. I pull my camera card, and I have a viewer with me this time, and I'm all set up. I'm like, this is great. No, I'm gonna see a buck here. I'm killing Herman tonight. That I really
Yeah, it felt
I
good.
truly had that feeling that this was happening. And I look in the first picture or no, not the first. I'm going through the whole week because I checked this earlier in the week. So I haven't been there all week, and I'm checking my photos, and there he is. Herman is there Friday morning, 10 a.m. I was a day late.
It's like everything you,
A day late and a
but at
dollar
the same
short.
time, what you want to see.
Exactly what I wanted to see, which was like, oh my God, he was here yesterday at 10 o'clock in the
Yeah,
morning.
please let him be here today.
Cruise through back here one more time, dude. Cruise back through here. I was amped up the whole entire time I was in that tree. Like, I'm like, I'm gonna see something. I know it's Friday. Any second, any second. Well, it gets dark out. I didn't see a deer the whole time, but it was one of the most exciting hunts I had all week, and I didn't see a deer.
Well, that's what you need, though. You got to have that excitement and you got to have that confidence.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I could sit in stands all day if I have that
Yep.
confidence and that excitement.
It,
It's when it starts draining you and wearing you out, it gets tough,
I'll tell
man.
you right now, this summer when I'm sure we'll get back up there again, and I'm gonna take you out there. We will be prepping a spot in that area for the
Oh yeah.
saddle. There will be a prepped tree, so I don't have to worry about it, and I'll have lightweight get out there, and it's game on, game on.
Do you still have a camera out up
I
there?
do. I do have one on up there. Hopefully the batteries lasted. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'll be neat to see.
We'll see. The last time that was checked was, I think I checked it in bear season.
Nice.
So I was up, or no,
Not even after rifle.
I didn't go up.
Guess you really didn't need to be up there.
No, yeah, I checked it. No, not in bear season. I checked it. I didn't even check it in rifle season. I just walked by it. I just let it go. I walked by it. Didn't even check it. So it's been sitting out there since the end of November, or
It's
early
stoking.
November, or whatever it was.
Man, that's hopefully that's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah,
But
I
you
have
know how
3
that goes.
cameras out there that could tell a whole story of what possibly could be going on this year for me, which is great. It's exciting. So hopefully we get up there in shed season and able to pull them and find some sheds, and find some
Yeah,
sheds
for
off the
sure.
buck that I want.
That would be awesome. I know how hard it is to find sheds on mountains,
Yeah,
and that's rewarding if you
we
do
probably
that.
won't find one. We'll probably drink more beers than we will put on miles.
Yeah, hopefully we don't break down any four wheelers
Uh,
this time too.
so that leaves me coming back home. Now the Pennsylvania regular season statewide has closed. Now I hunt in a special regulation area close to home. So I still have all the time in the world to kill a buck. And now,
And we were kind of excited for
yes, we
this.
were.
I know I
I was
was.
too.
After you had a bummer week up there, I was like, dude, you're coming home and the season's still open and you got shooters and that property is awesome.
And it's been untouched for.
Untouched, yep.
I mean, it's as far as my knowledge, it's been untouched. I mean, like I said, I've ran into some hunters that weren't supposed to be there. I had to kick a couple people off this year.
Yep. But other than
Um,
that,
Other than that,
um,
I mean, I'm just praying that it's went untouched, and now I'm going in there on a fresh hunt. So I went in there one afternoon after work. I hunted. I didn't see. I don't. I don't remember that hunt much because it must not have been memorable because there wasn't much going on. I think I
not
saw that spike.
not much to relive in that one.
Yeah, no, it just wasn't. There was nothing to talk about, and I told myself I need to sit in that tree over there. That's the tree I need to sit in. And I'm sitting in my regular tree stand. I said, thank God I got the saddle because I went in I think 2 days later, the weather turned out to be good. This is November 14th. And I set up, I prep a tree, I climb up there, and I'm setting up in the saddle, and I'm pumped up. I jumped 2 deer when I walked in. They were already out feeding. And I'm like, oh man, I hope that didn't screw anything up. Well, I climb up the tree, and there's 2 deer just kind of like filter right back out, and they're feeding again. I must not have spooked them that bad.
Yep.
So I'm in my saddle, and I'm just sitting there. Here comes that spike that I see every single time that I'm there. And I'm like, oh, look, it's you again. And then it was like these 2 little, I think they were actually both button bucks, were feeding out in front of me like 30, 40 yards. And then it like 4 o'clock hit, and it was like a light switch. Buck. That was the spike behind me. And as the minute I see the spike, I happen to turn around. I'm like, oh man, there's another buck coming. And this is a real nice 6-pointer, but not the big one that we're talking about. Just a solid 6-pointer. And he comes right under my tree. I mean, like he probably brushed the side of my tree. That's how close he was.
Yep.
And he comes right under me. And now the spike and him are together. I look up, here comes another buck, and it's a small 8-pointer. I'm like, get the hell out of here. Here's 3 bucks and 2 button bucks in front of me right now. Not one doe around. And I'm like, what are they doing? Why are they all coming here? What is going on?
Because
Some
it's
sort of
that
party.
spot, man. It's the honey pot.
Yeah. So here comes a small 8-pointer. Now the spike and the button buck's kind of like, they're starting to mosey away. They're feeding away. So the 6-pointer and this small 8-pointer, they're sparring in front of me now. Nothing intense. But what was really cool when this little 8-pointer was coming in, this 6-pointer blew up. Like I'd never seen a deer posture like this in my life, like in real life. I've seen it on social media. So this deer just blew up. The hair stood up, and he looked like he gained 200 pounds in just an instant. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm like, these guys are going to go at it, thinking it's going to be a hardcore fight over 2 button bucks. So they didn't go at it. They just were kind of sparring, and it was just tinkering. And they had moved away. So now there's a spike, a 6-pointer, and an 8-pointer, and 2 button bucks, all kind of together now, feeding away, heading directly towards another stand that we had set up. And now I'm like, maybe I should have sat in that stand and not this saddle stand, because the only deer I could have shot so far was the 6-pointer.
And this is just November. I mean, you would expect these deer to still be rutting pretty much.
Yeah, it's November 14th, and at this point, haven't seen a doe yet.
Yeah, it's like, what the heck are all these buck together for?
So all these buck are together, and they're heading towards another stand that we had set up, and we call that the creekside stand for the obvious reason it's next to a creek. So they're all over there. Now I can't see them anymore. And I'm like, all right, well, still got a lot of time left here. And lights, fading, and I'm looking. I'm like, oh man, there's a buck. And I knew instantly, I'm like, that's got to be a buck. That's a shooter. Just by body size, I'm like, that's got to be a buck. And if it is, it's got to be a shooter, because he was just big. And I threw my binoculars up. I'm like, it's him. It's him. It's the 9-pointer. It's the big 9. It's the big 9. And so now I'm all like, oh man, I'm pumped. But he's 80 yards away again. I'm like, I can't get on this deer to save my life. And this is just a small property, and I am not picking the right tree ever.
Yep.
I'm like, all I had to do was go sit creekside stand, and he's walking directly to it, because he's going right where those bucks were going.
At this point, have you tried to call any of these deer?
I didn't call any of the first ones, and then as soon as I laid eyes on the big 9, I grunted a few times with no luck. Whether he heard me or not, I have no idea. So then I took my tube off of my grunt tube, took the reed off, and I just got the wooden part in my mouth, and I'm trying to make a snort wheeze sound as loud as I possibly can, because he's far. I snort wheeze at him. I don't even think he stopped. I don't know if he heard me or not. Now I can't see him. I waited a little bit. I did a few grunts, and then I snort wheeze again. And I just put my call away.
Yep. It was, you didn't want to overdo it.
So. Yeah, I just put it away. I snort wheezed on 2 occasions, and I grunted maybe 6 times in 2 different series. And I put it away. I don't know if the deer heard me or not. And I'm like, oh man. Now I'm kind of like disgusted. I'm like, these deer, I don't know what they're doing. I can't see them. I don't know where they're at. And I'm figuring they're just feeding away. They're not. They're going the wrong way. So I see this one buck kind of run out, like he jogged away. And I'm like, and that's where the big 9 went. And I'm like, oh, there's that little 8-pointer. He kind of just jogged away. I'm like, oh, I know what he's doing. He's going over there and messing with all these deer, saying, yo, I'm boss. Get the hell out of here. And it had to be what he was doing. And I feel like he, at this point now, after we go into the story, I think this deer heard me grunt, and I think this deer heard me snort wheeze, and he went over there, showed these dudes who was boss, and I'm looking at the buck, not the big one. I'm looking at the little 8, and I'm binocling him. I'm like, all right, well, he's heading back this way now. He got pushed out of there. So he's heading directly towards me, towards my tree. And then I lose sight of him. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not getting overexcited because this is just the little 8-pointer. I'm not shooting him. And then I'm like, oh, there he is. I lost sight. And then, oh, there he is again. I threw my binoculars up. I'm like, oh my God, it's the big one. It's the big one. He's coming directly at me. I'm like, I don't know where what happened and how I missed that.
You're pretty
And
sure the 8 and him were coming your way then. It
no,
wasn't that you misidentified the 8.
now they're both coming that my way.
Yep.
But I didn't catch the big one coming because he probably came through my lane that I could see when I was putting the binoculars on the small 8. So I'm like, and he's like 40 yards away when I first see him. I'm like, oh man, that's him. And because all I was seeing was how wide he was and his bases. I'm like, oh man, that's him. Let's go. He's coming. And he's coming directly to the tree. And I'm like, and this is what made me think that he heard my grunt and the snort wheeze because he's coming on a mission right to this spot.
Yeah, he went to check out the deer that he could see.
Yep.
And then he's like, oh, I'm going to come check you out later.
And he's coming. And now, mind you, this is directly downwind. And I'll have to say hats off to the ozonics that I used this year.
This is your first year using the ozonics, right?
First year using the ozonics.
And your first year in the saddle.
First year in the saddle. And he came in directly downwind with his nose in the air. He was trying to smell that deer that was making that noise. But he never.
Did he ever act like he smelled anything? I know a lot of times with the ozonics, sometimes you catch them.
He did stop.
Smell something.
He stopped and stuck his nose way up in the air, and just stopped. And for it was literally maybe a second or two, and then he just kept coming.
Perfect.
And I was like, all right, he's coming now. He's about 20 yards away now. And, when you're hunting out of a saddle, you have a strong side, which I'm right-handed, so my left side is my strong side. And your right side would be considered your weak side. Because now you have this bridge in front of you, and it's tough to shoot on your right side because you got to either A, turn completely around, pivot your feet on your platform or your sticks or your pegs. Is this the first
time you're realizing this too, or have you practiced moving around?
I practiced moving around. I did every shot angle you could possibly think of.
So you knew in your head how you were going to be, how this was going to be.
I knew that I could pull it off if I had to. Didn't want to, but if I had to, I could pull this shot off. And it's just a tough. Some people might not be able to pull their bow back because it's an awkward angle. If you're imagine yourself facing a tree. Now you have a bridge in front of you, which a bridge is where your saddle is strapped around your butt, and it has 2 hooks on the side, and it goes up like a bridge, and it hooks into your tether that's around the tree, and it's snapped in. So it's away from your body, but it doesn't allow you to move your bow, say, from left to right smoothly. You have to lift it up over the bridge and then get it back down on your right side, on your weak side. If hopefully everybody can maybe picture that.
Yeah. I think actually in another podcast here, or one of our intros, I want to talk to you more about the saddle. So we'll get way deeper into that for sure because it's your first year using it. It's really popular. So you guys can look forward to that too. Anybody that has questions on it, shoot us some questions.
And actually go back to one of our previous podcasts with Greg Godfrey. And then we're gonna get him back on here, and we're gonna talk about all this too. And that
for sure.
And that's probably a good one we can dive into with asking a bunch of questions. Well, anyway, back to the story. So now this deer's 20 yards away. I don't want to do the complete spin around in the tree to get set up to be able to shoot on my strong side by spinning around.
Yep.
I have
Because he'll
to.
see
So
you,
I'm
right?
like, what's that?
Is it because you're worried that he'll see you move?
Yeah, it's a lot of movement, and he's 20 yards away,
Yep.
and it's just now. I prepped this tree this day. I have 0 shooting lanes prepped, and once I got up there, I'm like, what a dick. I'm like, I can't shoot anywhere. So I had broken some branches behind me to create create some lanes, but they were small lanes, maybe 15, 20 yards. I could maybe get an arrow through. So the deer standing there 20 yards away. I had pulled my bow up over my bridge and I shifted my body weight a little bit. And I'm telling you, Cole, I look like a pretzel in the tree. I'm all twisted up, and it's not comfortable. It's a little awkward, but like I said, I practiced this. I practiced these shots earlier in the season, right out of a tree stand, right out of the saddle. I know I can make it. So I'm like, all right, well, this deer either's got to go to the right or he's going to go to the left. And if he goes to the left, I want him to go to the left because then I can just pull back up over the bridge and I can have an easy, nice shot at 15, 20 yards on my strong side. But he happens to go to my right. And I'm like, all right, well, this is it. This is it. I pull back and I'm like, what the heck? I don't have any shooting lanes anywhere. And I'm like, all right, I'm looking ahead and I'm figuring, I'm like, all right, he's got to be 25 yards. He's got to be 25 yards. I never got to range it. And I'm guesstimating. And I'm like, there's a little hole here and about as big as a pie plate. Maybe probably even smaller than a pie plate. And I'm like, I can sneak an arrow through that hole. But he has to stop perfectly in this spot. And it was like someone told this deer to stop here. I didn't do anything. I didn't make a noise. That deer stopped perfectly in my pie plate hole. And it was perfect vitals. It was it couldn't have happened any better. It just couldn't have happened any better. So I'm drawing back and I settle my pin in there. I squeeze the trigger and I'm like, oh no, I hit him too high. I literally thought
Instant
instant
feeling.
bad feeling. I'm like, what the heck? Because I've done this before. I've hit deer in the spine and I've shot some deer. I've had some bad experiences where, you hit the deer in the right area, but I had some weird deflections where it came up and didn't hit any vitals. I had some weird things happening before. So automatically I'm thinking the worst. But when I see the deer cruising away and he's hauling ass, running away, I see the arrow hanging out the other side of him. And I'm like, I think that's in the middle of the deer. I think that's in the middle of the deer. I'm like, that's good. This is good. So I'm going through a roller coaster of emotions here of this is really bad. I just screwed up. How the heck did I just screw this up? And at the same token, that could be a good shot because I had called my buddy and my buddy Dan was like, Tom, remember that time I shot that buck and I called you and I said I hit him too high. I'm all nervous. And then he only was 70 yards away, dead. I double lunged him. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. He's like, that sounds like the exact same story you're telling me right now. I said, oh man, now I'm getting excited again. I'm like, yeah, dude, you might be right. You might be right. And then I had called you, and
Yeah, we talked about it, and I was pretty confident with it.
Yeah, everybody seemed confident with everything because the left to right was perfect, and I just was unsure about my up and down. But the angle, probably 20 something feet in the air.
Yeah, how close he was and the angle is what made me feel like,
Yeah,
that thing's toast.
I had ranged it after the shot, and it was 23 yards. I'm like, okay, good. I didn't really screw that up.
Yep, you knew the yardage,
And I was like, I just hit him a little high, and we'll, pray for the best. So the way the deer ran, he ran the way I come in. So I cannot leave that way.
I was super excited to come down and help you because I was going to the airport the next morning.
Yeah, I remember that. And I couldn't, there's no way I could wait that long.
Yeah, we ended up talking about it more, and you couldn't wait till the morning.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I had to be at work and all that. So I I think I gave this
It
deer.
took you a long time to get out of the woods.
It did it because I had to get somebody to come pick me up. I couldn't leave the way I wanted to. My truck was over that way, so I had to walk out the opposite way and get picked up pretty much like, I mean, again, I'm hunting suburban area. I'm getting picked up by other people's houses, so I'm trying to be like low key here. And so my dad comes and picks me up, and it took him a while to find me. Probably at least, I mean, I waited in the tree at least 20 minutes, a half hour before I even got down to look for blood. And I found blood right away, so which made me feel confident. I mean, I found blood at impact where I shot. The
Yeah, I
shot took
remember that
place.
too because that also made me think that he was dead.
Right, and that gave me the confidence to calm down and just like, all right, this deer's probably dead. That's definitely lung blood. Like I just,
Yeah, the pictures you sent us of the blood, I was like, you don't get that on impact without blowing through a lung.
right, exactly. So I was confident, but anybody
You
that
always
shoots a
have the
deer,
doubts.
everybody has doubt. So, and it drains you, man. So I get home, I think I drank 2 beers just to kind of like calm down.
Take the edge off.
Yeah, take the edge off, and I tried to eat dinner, and that's tough. You got to force that down. And I think it was about 3 hours that had total passed from the shot time, and then we got back over there and started looking. And my dad came and helped, and two of my buddies.
That's another good part about waiting.
Yeah, so I had some team. I had a team with me now, and I'm focused on. I'm letting these guys do the blood trailing because everybody knows after you shoot a deer, you're screwed up and you cannot see anything. You can't find you can't find anything. So I'm like, guys, look, we're gonna take this nice and slow. You guys are on the blood trail. I'm just gonna keep shining a light ahead in case this deer's alive laying there. I'll see his eyes. We can back out so we don't get too close. Anything. I'm thinking the worst.
Yep.
So we're blood trailing, and it's good blood. And I just shine my light up after about 80 yards, and I'm like, there he is, and he was just dead, and he was stiff. I could have went and found him after I called you on the phone within a half an hour, I'm sure.
Yeah,
He
not long, I
he
bet at
was
all.
toasted. I double lunged him. The shot was a little high, but it came out perfect on the other side. He was slightly quartering away, and it came out right behind his front shoulder. Man, I mean,
Beautiful.
you couldn't place the shot any better. Besides, if anything, it could have been an inch or two lower, and it would have been even better. I would have probably watched him fall over at that point. But you never know. He's a big bodied deer, and they have the will to live, and they can go. But
And if you put a shot on a deer like that and you think it's good, guess what? If he's dead, he'll be dead in 3 hours.
right, like, I think Matt said it the best. I I uh, I forget I forget what he said, but I never had a dead deer run away from me or something like that. It was along those
Yeah, I forget what he said exactly too. I know
terms,
the time that we talked about it.
right? And like we were talking about waiting or doing this and that, and he's like, I forget the exact terms. We'll have to ask him out again what it was, but it
We'll have to
was
try to get that quote back
yeah,
from him.
exactly. But it was something along the lines of never had a dead deer get up and run from me after waiting for 3 hours or something along those lines. But anyway, it turned out to be a 10-pointer. It was the buck that I was after. I did have, I was a little over exaggerating on the first time I saw the deer. I'm like, yeah, this deer's it's got to
Not
be
by much.
130 inches. Well, I was a little off.
Not by much. He was a solid buck.
Yeah,
And score doesn't matter in
no,
most people's books, so it's just a number there.
it turns out to be my biggest archery. Yeah, that turned out to be one of my biggest archery bucks.
Yeah.
So, it was. I was pumped. I was super happy about the deer. No regrets at all. And that's exactly how I wanted to end my season. I wanted to end it with being extremely happy about harvesting a deer, and obtaining the goal that I went out there, to do. I set a goal and I accomplished it, and that was the main focus of my season. Was
Yeah, and it didn't come easy. I mean, like we talked about, the season was rough.
It was
You know,
very
just
rough.
because you had these shooter bucks encounters, it didn't guarantee anything. And what you went through, upstate, I mean, it's nothing was guaranteed, but for it to work the way it did, it was nice. It's like your backup plan, and my backup plan was Speedy. And, when you're able to do that, just shows you got to have options.
Yep.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
You have to have options, and you have to be willing to make a game time call, make that
Yeah,
halftime adjustment, and
improvise if you
and
need to.
and make it happen. Like I had two stands there. I walked in there with climbing sticks and a saddle, and I climbed up a new tree because I knew that that's a tree that all these deer at some point in time pass by throughout that spot in that
Yep.
area.
And it still felt like it wasn't going to work,
Yeah, it didn't. I just it
but it all worked out for a reason.
yeah.
Maybe it was the calling, maybe it's just a strange night, no doe and
Yeah,
the way those deer were acting, but
it is
that's how
funny
that
that
spot
I
is.
did not, and at the end of that story, not one doe was seen or spotted that whole time on that whole hunt.
Yep.
I saw 5 bucks or 4 bucks in one sit with no doe. It was kind of mind boggling, but it just
In what should be almost, breeding week.
yeah.
Maybe those doe were pushed around, locked up with other deer, but
It,
just odd.
and that buck that I shot had some scars on him, and I'm gonna go say that they were from fighting.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
wondering what other buck was around. Who
I
was he
wouldn't
fighting?
I wouldn't doubt that there's other buck, of his caliber around that area.
Absolutely. I mean,
We almost guarantee it. We just don't know for sure.
it's yeah. I'd have to say that there's got to be a monster around there somewhere. Just there's so many places for them to hide, and it's an unhuntable spot.
Yeah. A heck of a season. I mean, sometime we got to add up the hours that we put in the tree stand.
You know, I
But outside of that, it's crazy just to think.
I've never logged my hours on a stand. And that's something that I probably should do just to see like, man, I put a lot of
Just to
people.
know.
Yeah, just to know. And a lot of people are like, oh, you get a deer every year, or you get a deer every year. Well, dude, you don't know how much time I put in on this.
Yeah.
Like,
Driving, you drive more than some people hunt all year.
yeah, and spend so much freaking money that I don't have. Let alone, and it's all for that thrill of harvesting
It's for
the
that
buck,
moment
and
right there.
that's and it makes it all worth it.
That night to share that with your dad and your friends and
It was great. We were all pumped up. They were like, "Oh man, it's a 10-pointer." We're taking pictures, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm sure if anybody who's listening to this, I'm sure you follow us on social media and you saw pictures of this deer. But we'll post more. And it was a great season, great hunt, and I'm glad I got to spend it with you guys and my family and closest friends.
that's what it's all about. I love reliving these hunts. I hope you guys enjoy listening to it as much as we do putting them on. Every single guest we get on this year, we're gonna make them relive a hunt with us, and you're gonna learn some stuff hopefully along the way. I mean, I do just listening to it, even though I've already lived it all.
Yep,
You know,
same here. I
was that the first deer you shot with the saddle, or did you shoot a doe
I I,
out of it,
I that was the only deer I shot this year. I
out of the
still
saddle
have
in your first year using it?
one day left of hunting. Is Saturday. I'm going to be back out there in the saddle, and I'm improvised again because I've learned some things out of the ATA that I'm putting to the test on Saturday.
Sweet. Well, we're gonna have to recap that in the next one too.
Absolutely.
I am not doing anything. Waiting for a lot of deer to drop their antlers. I am actually watching them on my cell camera right now as we speak. The broadhead buck is in front of my camera,
Oh,
hanging
beautiful,
out,
beautiful.
holding both sides. So I'll be doing a little bit of scouting slash shed hunting this
Well,
weekend.
it was that the
That's it.
a lot of bucks dropped early, and you thought it was going to be a weird year where everybody was dropping early, but now it just seems like it's going right back in a normal pattern.
Yeah, did I talk to you about that?
No.
That I was talking to Taylor about that. I think even today or yesterday. A handful of bucks dropped early, and everyone was like, "What the heck's going on?" And I even noticed it. And Taylor and I talked about it, just exactly what you just said. And then the bucks that are holding, they're all just back to normal, holding strong. Probably won't shed till March.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad that's happening because I'm not ready to shed hunt yet.
Yeah, I mean, Pennsylvania season's still open another 2 days here.
Right, and I'm hoping to get out there Saturday, shoot a doe, and end my season on a high note.
Yep, I'm actually going outside. I lie. I am doing some more stuff. I'm going out Saturday morning and trying to help Matt kill one of those 2 buck.
Hopefully he gets it done.
We're gonna see what we can do. We're hoping they're bedding up there, and we're gonna move them.
Yeah, you've guys seen the pictures on I think we sent them out on
On the Instagram story
on the
a bunch of
Instagram
times.
story. Yep. All right, guys. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap it up here. So be sure to follow us on Instagram and follow our Instagram story. Whenever you see that little red circle around the Relive the Hunt logo, make sure you click on it because it keeps us up to date and up to minute by minute sometimes what is actually happening in the woods, especially with Cole was just talking about with the cell cameras with Matt and after those 2 beautiful Pennsylvania deer. And it keeps you kind of involved and in check with what we are up to at the current time. Even on our hunts, we're out there doing it and we're getting on social media, just kind of letting you know what we're doing. And make sure you're following us on Facebook. We just uploaded, if you don't have iTunes, we just uploaded our newest podcast on YouTube, so you can listen to it there as well. So it was great having you guys with us. I enjoyed telling my story, and I got all pumped up reliving it. And
now you're not going to sleep.
I'm not going to sleep. I'm all amped up again.
Yeah, anytime on social media, make sure you guys are commenting and sending us messages to our Instagram stories because interaction is what it's all about. And if you got a story, we'll be more than happy to get you on here and relive it with you.
All right, guys, have a great night, and we'll be back again soon.
Peace out.
Later.